Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everybody. If you could please take your seats. The June 12th Board of Directors meeting is called to order. First, I would like to ask our interpreters to explain how to access interpretation. Please go ahead.
Good morning. To use the interpretation feature, please scroll to the bottom of the Zoom screen where the meeting controls are. Click on the interpretation icon in the world and select English as your language. If you're joining through the Zoom mobile app, cell phone, tablet, etc., please press the ellipsis, then interpretation, and then choose your language. Finally, click on mute original audio to not hear the original Spanish flow in the background. Headsets are available for interpretation. If you're in the meeting room, please check out a headset from the receptionist in the lobby. Buenos días. Para hacer uso del servicio de interpretación, favor de desplazarse a la parte inferior de la pantalla de Zoom, donde aparecen los controles. Haga clic en el icono de interpretación, globo terráqueo, y seleccione Spanish, español. Si está utilizando la aplicación móvil de Zoom, celular, tableta, etc., presione los puntos suspensivos, luego interpretación y luego el idioma. Si no desea escuchar el audio original en inglés en el fondo, por favor seleccione Mute Original Audio, silenciar audio original. Contamos con auriculares disponibles para el servicio de interpretación. Si se encuentra en la sala de reunión, favor de pedir auriculares con la recepcionista en el vestíbulo. Gracias. Thank you.
Thank you. And before we begin, I'd like to note that due to today's agenda, which includes 2 substantial closed session items and the first reading of amendments to the Comprehensive Fare Ordinance at the Transportation Committee, which must begin at 1 p.m., public comment will be limited to 1 minute per speaker for each item today only. Additionally, we'll be trailing non-agenda comments to after closed session. We appreciate your understanding and your cooperation. Now I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the land that we call home. The tribal nations of the San Diego region have historically faced injustices. We acknowledge the harmony that existed between the land, nature, and its original peoples. We have since endured displacement, persecution, and systemic oppression. We pay our respect to the unceded territory and homelands of the 18 tribal nations in our region, the most in any county in the United States. From 4 cultural groups, the Kumeyaay Digueño, the Luiseño, the Cupeño, and the Cahuilla. This land has nourished, healed, protected, and embraced them for many generations in a relationship of balance and harmony. As members of the SANDAG community, we acknowledge this legacy. We aspire to learn from Indigenous traditional knowledge and experiences in undoing the injustices of the past. Now, please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Michael, can you please confirm quorum?
We have a quorum, Chair, with the cities of Carlsbad, Chula Vista, El Cajon, La Mesa absent.
Chula Vista just walked in. Very good. All right. Thank you. I'll now turn it over to Mario for his update.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to try to keep it brief. As we let the Executive Committee know also, on June 15, the state legislator requested, I'm in the wrong page. On May 22nd, we received a request from the California State Legislative Audit Committee to come and testify. Assembly member De Mayo raised a request to audit SANDAG regarding the Transnet 1 delivery, the North Coast Corridor mitigation and lagoon restoration, and reporting of SB1 and the SHOP programs. Both myself and the CFO, Don Batiste, went to Sacramento. We testified. We have delivered most of the Transnet projects. The lagoon restorations were deemed appropriate and also were mentioned that were under special legislation. And we also mention how we report our appropriate reporting on the SB1 program, and SANDAG does not use SHOP funds. The committee voted to not proceed with the audit. There was a good conversation highlighting on all the different mechanisms that the agency has. ITALC Audit Committee, our independent auditor, the FTA reviews and audits, Federal Highways reviews, CTC's oversight as well as Caltrans oversight. Assembly member De Mayo was very complimentary in his testimony of the recent work the agency has been doing. And I would probably just keep it at that for now and just mention that our offices are going to be closed next coming Friday for the Juneteenth holiday. Thank you.
Very good. All right. We'll now move on to the consent agenda. Michael, do we have any public comments on the consent agenda?
We do, Chair. Just a second. If you're online and would like to speak on consent agenda, please raise your hand now. Commentaries for the purposes of civility and orderly meeting, we kindly ask that you refrain from using loud, threatening, profane, or abusive language. For board policy, the amount of time allowed for each verbal public comment is determined based on the number of agenda items, the complexity of those items, and the number of persons anticipated to offer comment. This allows us to hear from as many people as possible to complete our business while we still have a quorum. So based on those factors, the chair has determined that for today's meeting, each member of the public will be allowed 1 minute for their comments. Again, this is consent agenda. So please identify the consent agenda item you are speaking to. And if comments are not related to the consent agenda, you will be asked to stay on topic. If you do not stay on topic, you will be muted. So first we have Truth, followed by Cesar Javier.
Lisa's the new Nora 2.0. Item 3.1, why were Bruce and Vivian absent by the consent? And why did the county losers provide zero representation for the budget? Item 3.4, it's taken MTS over 4 years to still not purchase 6 buses, primarily because they failed at proper documentation, knowing the basic expenses. Where is the SANDAG oversight of this corrupt and inept agency? Can they even afford 6 buses? Item 3.5, what is the point of a productivity improvement performance report when SANDAG doesn't actually seek improvement of the agencies it funds, which aren't even meeting the minimum legal thresholds of fair recovery? NCTD Plus has a 253.3% increase in operating costs per hour. MTS rapid buses are operating under, and yet SANDAG keeps pushing them. Raising transit fares does not lower increased corruption. Item 3.8, as evidenced by the Claremont trolley parking lot's reduction in cost, if relinquishing control to private companies works, SANDAG should relinquish all control. In fact, I think Lisa should relinquish all control being chair.
Thank you. Next is Cesar Javier, followed by allegedly Audra. This is a consent agenda. Please state the item you're speaking to.
A very good topic. Thank you, SANDAG. 3.1 to 3.10. We are good at summarizing. We can only say that the processes empirically approach prayerfully, God help, good governance. Rate, however, is our dream, ought to be adequate, timely, efficiently, and effectively. Research, study, documentations, data, gathering, oversights, decision-making, priorities are the product of yester governance in action. Thank you, SANDAG. SANDAG focuses on 1/5 of the 5 elements to be considered in urban or even rural planning. And the elected officials are responsible for 5. SANDAG duplicates that.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Next is allegedly Audra, followed by Life Gensert online. This is a consent agenda. Please state the topic you're speaking to.
For equity, I say you guys all get a minute as well. Yes, I would take it as a win. Congratulations for putting the agenda outside. However, you didn't do it prior for all of your other meetings. So I could go back potentially 6 months and void all of the business that you have done. So all of these minutes that you are approving or these recommendations from the different committees would be deemed null and void. And so I appreciate you course correcting, which means your legal team was incorrect last time, stating that having it posted down at a toll center in the middle of nowhere was suffice. It wasn't. It's a procedural error that you guys were engaging in. And so I appreciate the course correction, but you need to make sure that you continue to follow the law. And I am going to go back to all of the meetings that you have.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Next is Leif Gensler online, followed by Blair Beekman. Please state the consent agenda item you're speaking to.
Morning, my name is Leif Gensert. I'm the Vice President of Right SD. I'm going to speak on consent item 3.9. But first I want to point out that I find it not okay that you're putting non-agenda public comment at the end. It makes it very hard for people to participate in the public discourse, which is something that you're supposedly should people enable to do. Nevertheless, item 3.9, approval of the draft agenda for the next time, does still not include SB 79. SB 79 is state law that you have to obey to. You haven't released a map. San Diego has proposed a map. You need to talk about this at some point. You can't delay it further off, otherwise you're risking a lawsuit from the state, which is going to cost the taxpayer a lot of money. Please do care about SB 79. And then in general, implement the regional plan with up-to-date bus rapid transit standard given out by the ITDP. Thank you very much.
Next is Blair Beekman, followed by Guthrie Leonard. This is the consent agenda. Please state the item you're speaking to.
Hi, Blair Beekman. Items 3.5, 3.8, 3.10. I wanted to comment quickly in items reviewing budget concerns. I think you're all pretty aware of what happened at the San Diego MTS meeting yesterday. They want to put to question a freeze on rate increases for disabled riders and monthly passes. I always tried to comment that the additional $5 this September pricing increase is way too steep and high. And you guys have to really reconsider that, possibly allow an additional 2 or 3 months to work on the issue if possible, possibly a rate increase of only $2, not $5. And the rate freeze is a great idea overall. Please review it. Please be caring and consider it and be open. That's key, be open. And this public meetings need public comment. I'm really pissed that you guys are not allowing public comment. Thank you.
Our last public comment on consent is Guthrie Leonard. Please state the consent agenda item you're speaking to.
Hi, I would also like to speak to item 3.9. I'm concerned that, like Life said, we have yet to release any information about our county's SB 79 map. I mean, this is very impactful for the cities in the county, as well as the citizens and SANDAG itself, if it chooses to not release it in time. I think this is just a poor sign of the efficiency with which we're working through SB 79. It's a very impactful bill. I think it's impactful in a good way, but we need to be proactive about how we're implementing it, and that is not what I'm seeing. So I'd really love to see that released this week so that at the very least, cities have a little bit of time to understand how it would impact them, but they have really no chance of developing some alternative plan by now. So that's unfortunate that that's how it's been run.
That concludes our public comment on consent agenda, Chair.
Very good. Are there any board member comments on consent? Yes, Mayor Jones.
Thank you so much. I'm not sure. This said that I had.
No, there's not.
Yeah. I think something's going on with it. Anyway, I just had a couple of questions for staff. The first one is on page 70. It talks about the stopover facility. I just wanted to get
which item?
I'm sorry. 3.8. 3.8. 3.8.
Okay.
Yes.
Project progress update.
Yes. On the stopover item, I thought that we had paused on that, but maybe I don't remember. I sometimes do forget things.
Two steps, Mayor. We pause on the big picture.
Yes.
And let's say the direction the board gave us is see what you could do with what you have. With the properties we have acquired, but don't try to go and acquire more property. So the team has worked on that. We have the consultants. We're developing the concepts to basically fix the existing parking lots that are there and make them available for MTS and set the facilities needed for their drivers. So that's what we're working on.
Perfect. And then on page 71, the SR 78 Rapid project, is that the one from Riverside down to San Marcos Landing? I think
I think it is,
yes.
but I
got a nod. Yes,
okay,
that's
yes.
a yes. Okay, that's what I just wanted to clarify. I thought that's what it was, but I just wanted to make sure. And then I do have a question on page 9 of the, or actually it's page 90 of the agenda packet. It said that sales tax receipts for the 12 months ending March 31st, the coverage of the major corridor program was 1.37 times, a dip from the prior fiscal year with the TIFIA debt service payments begin. Is that what was last year? Like it said that there was a change, and I'm just not sure
gonna
what that change was.
bring Don to that, or Kim.
Sorry. Oh, poor Don was trying to get a cup of coffee or something.
What I think there is a board policy on the coverage ratios that need to be maintained, and that's why we're reporting that. So I don't know, Don, if you could shed a little bit more light on that.
Yeah, maybe what that number is and then what it was last year. Just curious.
I can get you the last year number, but I will tell you that so our TIFIA loan had a 5-year deferral of payment. And so 2026 is our first year that we actually started paying on the loan, which brought our coverage ratio down. The debt policy requires a one-time coverage, and we've always been well above the one time. The 1.3 times is still considered very good. And our overall program coverage is strong, but I can make sure that we email you what it was last year at the same time.
Perfect. I was just curious. I didn't know exactly what that meant, and I wanted some clarification. All right. Thank you so much.
Would you like to make a motion to approve consent?
I would. Yes.
Okay, very
motion to
good.
approve.
Second, second by Mayor Sanchez. I don't see anybody on the board. You're okay? Okay, please vote using your devices to approve consent. Okay, that passes unanimously of those present. All right, thank you. We'll now move on to the external audit. Mario, do you have an intro?
Well, we have our external audit was done. Davis Farr will be presenting it, and Kim Trammell will be ready also to provide a very brief response for us. But I think we got a better grading than last year, so that's a good advantage. And I'll pass it on to Jennifer.
Good morning. I just wanted to do a quick introduction. We are presenting the annual audited financial statements for the fiscal year that ended June 30.
Kimberly, can you move the mic closer to you, please?
I sure can. These reports were completed in March of 26 and presented to the audit committee on May 1st. The audit of the financials was completed by Davis Farr, and Jennifer Farr is here today to present the results of the audit.
Good morning. Thank you for having me here today. I have a short presentation to facilitate the discussion of the audit results. So we were able to get started on the audit and finalize the June 30, 2025 audit earlier this year. And our audit engagement includes 5 different financial statement audits, a TDA compliance audit, the single audit of federal awards, our letter to those in governance, and 2 agreed upon procedures reports. And I wanted to focus on the comprehensive annual financial report. In our audit opinion, we issued an unmodified audit opinion on the financial statements. And I did want to point out that this is a change from the prior year. If you recall, we had a qualified audit opinion due to our inability to verify the accuracy of toll revenues. This year, we were able to perform additional testing and verify improvements in the system of internal controls that would allow us to rely on the numbers and come to the conclusion that there are no material misstatements related to the toll revenues. Also included in our audit opinion is an emphasis of a matter, and this is to let the readers know that there was a change in the accounting standards during the year. and also a correction of a prior year error. And so those items are required to be pointed out in our audit opinion. And there's more information in the report. During our audit committee meeting, there was a request to explain a materiality in a little more detail. So I won't go into too much detail here, but I wanted to include a calculation of how materiality works, just to point out the number that's highlighted as materiality, and this is for the general fund. That is the number at which we determine if something is materially misstated for each opinion unit. And then the other number that is bold and that says low risk individually significant items. This is kind of our threshold for testing individual transactions. So just so you can see how the math goes, and when we talk about materiality, the different numbers and calculations that we're using there. During the audit, we perform standard audit procedures, and then we also have different areas of focus where we perform additional procedures. Our areas of focus this year included the implementation of the new standard, the toll revenues, the new lease at the West Office location, our federal grant compliance testing. We also reviewed the Weaver assessment of audit risks that were identified, and also OIPA's reports and any audit risks that were identified in those reports. And then this year we performed an unpredictability test on additional testing over payroll transactions. So that just gives you an idea of the different areas where we took a deeper dive this year. I did want to report out on the federal single audit results. There was $122 million of federal expenditures. We tested 3 major programs for testing and determined there were no material instances of non-compliance identified as a result of those tests. And lastly, we do have some internal control recommendations for SANDAG this year. We have a recommendation about material audit adjustments that were detected during the audit, including prior period restatements. That is one of those items that automatically is identified as an area of internal control weakness and an area for improvement. We commented on the timeliness of financial reporting. We still are starting the audit a little late and finishing the audit a little late. The goal should be to have everything completed by December 31st of each year. We have an internal control recommendation about the toll back office system. Although there are no material misstatements, we still identified immaterial variances between the back office system and the accounting system that continue to need to be investigated. And then other minor recommendations related to reconciling accounts payable detail to the trial balance, and also some minor cleanup issues with having the trial balance better support the financial statements in terms of the way the accounts are organized. And so with that, I will turn it back over to Kimberly.
All right, in consideration of today's time limitations, I won't go through the entire presentation that we prepared on management's response, but you do have it on your tables in front of you, so you can read it at your convenience. And the full response can also be found on page 15 of attachment 2 to the agenda item. We are very pleased to have received the unmodified opinion from the auditors. A lot of hard work and effort went into correcting the items identified and documenting that we could support the numbers. So I want to thank the team for all their work on that. And then we also want to acknowledge that there's still work to do to address the findings, including the one repeat finding that we've had. And so we are definitely focused on making those improvements in the areas identified as we head into the next audit cycle. We've been working on getting our team additional training. We've been working on tightening our monthly checklists and our reconciliation timeliness. And so we're looking looking forward to continuing to make the improvements identified by the Davis-Farr firm, as well as those identified in the Finance Department assessment report that was completed in December. With that, I'll turn it back over to the chair.
I
you.
wanted to add just a comment, probably basically what Kim said, but look, we need to work more on working with our partner agencies on collecting processes, documentations. On the toll operations, we need to be better on collecting the accounts that are, for one reason or another, are not paid, or let's say a checking account doesn't have a balance, pursuing those violations in some cases. So we do need to get better on that and get better on reconciling our books. That is very important. And we need to get better in the timely way. Jennifer brought it up. We need to finish this audit earlier. We need to get ready. It is a challenge. With any audits, like I've said, you're basically changing the tire of the car when as you're driving it, right? So, but we do need to balance that work and be cognizant that we need to be getting better on our timing, our collections, on our toll operations, working with our partners on getting reimbursed better, or us reimbursing them also in a more timely, better manner, and making sure that we don't keep getting repeat recommendations in audits. They should come new ones, new areas, because you already highlighted, Jennifer, where we need to improve. So we need to focus on that and get it done. So that's where we're going to be working this coming year on those items.
Very good. Thank you, Kimberly. Thank you, Jennifer. We'll go to public comments and then we'll have board discussion. Michael.
Thank you. This is item 4. Commenters, if you're online and would like to comment on this item, please raise your hand now. In person, we have 3, and then online, we have 1. So it's Truth, followed by Caesar. This is item 4.
She comes in, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, gotcha.
There's a lot wrong with the West lease, a hazardous non-compliant building with only 1 to 2 restrooms for the public. How many do you guys have that for your private use? SANDAG's excuse for untimely reporting is basically priorities and resources. Well, if you were to prioritize wisely, you'd have plenty of resources from your overinflated $1.3 billion budget. SANDAG doesn't meet the FTA's criteria to conduct stat sampling for passenger miles traveled. But if SANDAG spent countless millions on Tyler Technologies to have access to endless data, what happened? Why didn't Davis-Farr audit the actual risk areas we care about? Where are SANDAG's detailed responses and plans to quit screwing up every week? What is the point of hiring the consultant Davis-Farr if you have an internal controls director and an independent auditor? Make it make sense. What will make SANDAG follow the procedures, policies, and laws instead of Lisa trying to always skate out of them, or even Manny fight them constantly every single meeting? I'm going to actually quote Esther. I didn't bring the clip, but she said, we do double talk, triple talk. Ain't that the truth?
Next is Caesar, followed by allegedly Audra. This is item 4.
From our humble analysis, we just want to know how much money was wasted, or how much money have we saved for a quality project. Basic. The City of San Diego, Councilor Lacaba, Councilor Lee, respectfully procured the services of Crow. And Crow responded saying, oh, the processes is okay, but we could only do that. But the impacts, no say. Is that the same with Davis-Farr? Okaying the process, but no impact?
Thank you. Your time has expired. Next is allegedly Audra, followed by Blair Beekman online. This is item 4.
I find it interesting when you're saying that you're relying on the numbers of internal controls, and then you're talking about variances in numbers that you found. in the internal controls. So why would you not look further to make sure that, you know, you're doing your job? I love talking in the back of people's heads. It's awesome. You know, to make sure. But the thing is that you guys do these audits to act like we're in compliance, we're following the policy. Oh, well, we like break the law because there's no way to hold people accountable if you do. And if not, we'll make a new policy. It's like, it's just the way the government works is so ridiculous. And you have these people come in who you can't trust because it's like they tell you themselves. Like, maybe you should think about what you're saying before you say it, because you're kind of like letting the cat out of the bag, that you can't be trusted when you're relying on faulty numbers and saying it, and then wanting people to trust that you're going to bring something truthful.
Our last comment is Blair Beekman online. This is item number 4.
Yeah, hi, thank you, Blair Beekman. With these auditing items, what was just spoken about, good luck towards accountability. That, you know, as much as we want to work towards accountability at SANDAG, how to apply that to this item, good luck where it can be applicable. And hopeful, by the way, very hopeful. So I'm hopeful what you can be doing with accountability. Good luck in that. Good luck in how, if it relates at all, that these auditing practices and ideas can relate to the upcoming questions of SDMDS bus fare increases. And if we can have a price freeze on disabled services. There's a ways to vote to and still allow conversation to continue in the following months on freeze issues, hopefully. And I'm really upset that you guys are prioritizing your own public comment before non-agenda public comment. I'm upset by that. It's not right. Thank you.
Your time has expired. That concludes our public comment on this item, Chair.
Very good. On to member comments. I have Councilmember Contreras up, and I have nobody else up. So if you want to speak, please push your button.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I missed it, but I don't see a work plan or anything like that for implementation of the recommendations. Are there like particular strategies as to how we can implement these recommendations? Just curious.
So we have gone through each of the recommendations that are in this item and said, here's what we plan to do. So like I said, that's in attachment 2. And we are kind of combining this with the items that were identified in the Weaver assessment report to really look at a comprehensive, here's all the areas we need to work on. And so we're looking to add some additional resources to help kind of catch us up on timeliness and to help with the many priorities that we're trying to deliver.
Council member, the Weaver assessment that OIPA did was very helpful. It provided us a roadmap I call it a roadmap to success, and it had specific items. A lot of them will also be in the recommendations that we need to follow, as well as we being strategic as staffing, resources, and different items that can come in. But we're basically following a lot of the recommendations we got on the financial, on the finance department assessment, will help us quite a bit to get to this point, in addition to the staffing and the movement of staffing and prioritizing certain elements of work.
Yeah, I just want to say, fantastic work. It's really great to see us going in this direction. And, I'm just always curious of timelines and stuff like that. So that's one layer that I'm curious about that I want to follow up on. But other than that, I think this is a really good direction. So thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Chavez.
I am no longer deputy mayor, but
Councilmember Chavez.
Appreciate it. So I have a question before I make my comments. So is there an estimate of the amount of toll revenue that has gone uncollected as a result of the current lack of Department of Motor Vehicles integration to the 125 toll road?
So there's a couple components to that. we don't, you're always going to have some portion that's not collectible. And so we don't have something that breaks it out that says, if we had DMV holds, this is how, would be the difference in that number. So I can't directly address, the DMV holds and how much that would help. We also don't, in the financial statements that were audited and you see in front of us, we build in an allowance for what we're not collecting because we don't actually anticipate to collect some of these dollars. For example, somebody could drive on the road and we try to read their license plate and then it comes up with no match or no DMV record. And so those kinds of there's no way to go after those dollars. So there's going to be some loss regardless. So we're working through our accounts receivable and what it's made up of and is how much of it is realistic. And we'll come back to the board with some addition with the dollar amounts and some recommendations on what we could do to improve collections of that.
I appreciate it. I just want to thank our staff and everyone that did all the hard work that always goes into these necessary audits and disclosures. This ongoing process of assessment, accountability, and transparency is essential to maintaining the public trust and helps us identify where improvements are still needed. On behalf of Chula Vista residents, I think it is important that we note that this board was first briefed on the SR 125 tolling irregularities in 2023, and we continue to see findings and audits items, unfortunately related to the unresolved challenges associated with the E10 tolling system today, 3 years later. Staff continues to actively monitor the system, correcting errors, which I do appreciate, and working through challenges such as the continued lack of Department of Motor Vehicles integration as well. I support the plan's transition to a new back office system, which I believe will address many of these longstanding issues. At the same time, these year-long history of operational challenges continues to highlight the unique burden placed on South Bay residents who are disproportionately affected by problems on what remains the only toll road in San Diego County. I look forward to seeing continued progress and measurable milestones as we move toward implementation of the new system. While the toll road remains in place, we have a responsibility to operate as efficiently, accurate, and transparently as possible without losing sight of the real solution, which in the South Bay, transitioning the SR 125 to a freeway. So with that, thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you so much. Mayor Duncan.
Thank you for the report. Just a couple super quick questions on some specifics. I wasn't exactly sure what they meant. So on this handout, it has internal control recommendations. And one of them on the toll back office system limitations, it says an increase in ETON resources for financial reports. Could you just tell me what that means? Is that a SANDAG increase or having the vendor increase? I wasn't exactly sure what it meant.
It's working more closely with the vendor to be able to build out the reporting system so that we can essentially take two different reports, compare them, and find out where there might be something different and make sure that everything is then corrected and showing appropriately. So it's very important that we have we have a lot of SANDAG staff time looking at things on a regular basis and monitoring, but we need the reports to work with. And so ETAN is working with us to get those reports.
Okay, so increase in ETON resources is staff time, so to speak, or both time on both sides to ensure the communications being done. It looks like one of the main themes through the report is to do things monthly or at least quarterly as opposed to once a year when the audit takes place. And how is that going, or is that at the implementation phase?
That is definitely a theme and something we have been working on. Between the ERP implementation and the back office project and a few other things, it's been hard for staff to keep up on the monthly and quarterly items. And so we're getting to the point where we can breathe a little bit and catching up on those. So the toll accounting team, for example, has been using a monthly checklist and going through it every month and making sure that we are monitoring these different reports and that the numbers that we are posting to our accounts are correct.
Thank you. I just have one last quick question. Can we go back a slide please? Is that possible? Maybe, right, let's see, one more, please. We don't get there, well, let's see, I think maybe one more, please. All right, well, I will stop going back on there, but my question was, it mentioned like Caltrans and some unrealized funds or a few, three categories related to Caltrans. I was just curious, what is that? If you could just give me a sentence or two of expanding on that.
So when you have as many grants as SANDAG has and federal and state dollars, the revenue recognition component of accounting is pretty complicated. So we have to make sure that we've received the funds within so many days of the end of the fiscal year. We have to make sure that we've incurred the costs associated with those funds if it's an advance payment. And so there was an instance where we had essentially recognized the revenue but not received it within the time frame. And I don't know, Jennifer, did you want to expand on any of that?
Yeah, there was actually two material journal entries with Caltrans, and they both had to do with just timing issues, getting the revenue recognized in the correct time period.
And so you call them material because of the timing of them, or is there's another reason they're called material?
Material because of the dollar amount.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I see no one else up on the board. So we'll move on to public. There's no action needed for this. Thank you so much, Kimberly and Jennifer. We'll move on to public comment on the closed session. And as I mentioned earlier, there will be public comment and non-agenda public comments after our closed session. So Michael, for closed session comments, please.
If you're online, like to comment on closed session items, please raise your hand now. Chair, in person, we have 3 comments, and then online we have 2. The first is Truth, followed by Caesar. This is closed session.
Let's see, item 5.1, SANDAG versus Associated Microbreweries, aka Carl Strauss. And I'm convinced beer is the only thing that gets council members' attentions away from their stupid phones. Is Strauss suing SANDAG for damages due to stupid bike lane construction, or are commercial trucks having difficulty making turns with a stupid bike barrier in the way? Does anyone know why the Rose Canyon bike path starts near the 5 entrance? Item 5.2 from a 2021 NPR article, software issues Lubbock County is still working to address since implementing Tyler Technologies. People wrongfully jailed, private court records made public, and defense attorneys struggling to obtain discovery from prosecutors. Records no longer fully accessible online. In Alameda County, Marion County, Indiana, Wichita Falls, Memphis, federal class action lawsuit. But from the Tyler Technologies website, SANDAG leveraged Tyler's enterprise data platform, an open data platform to address crime, transportation, geospatial studies, and economic analysis. And they talk about transparency and public trust. I trust that this board is transparently full of a bunch of idiots who have no idea what they're doing with our tax dollars.
Next is Caesar Javier, followed by allegedly Audra. This is item 5, closed session items.
We have a robust idea on how to comment on this because we are the accurate evidence of, shall we say, litigation. City of San Diego perceived as violent. Parallel to this closed session agenda. But we are accurately, absolutely, and truthfully to say we are not under God. And so the lesson here is for us thinkers to do the right thing, to say the truth.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Next is allegedly Audra, followed by Gambler Online. This is item 5, closed session items.
I have significant concerns of the competency of the legal team when they give fraudulent, illegal advice to you guys blatantly. And I mean, obviously, again, you guys have course corrected, but you have set yourself up for litigation. I'm not necessarily going to go back 6 months, but there have been 3 meetings that you guys have been aware of that I told you were not noticed, yet you continued. So obviously it's not the board of directors, but it was the executive committee, the chiefs and sheriffs management committee, and the audit committee. So those need to go back and be revisited, or we're going to be paying a pretty penny to force you to capitulate to follow the law. So you guys sit here and you talk about compliance. I suggest in your closed session that you talk about this significant exposure to litigation you have put yourselves in, and whether or not you want to go down that path, or let's course correct right now and redo those meetings.
Next is Gambler Online, followed by Blair Beekman. This is item 5, closed session items. Gambler, you're self-muted.
Okay, how you guys folks doing today? I want to go ahead. You know, I know none of you guys deserve to work there. Eventually, San Diego County is going to go ahead and give me the file that I'm asking for, all the illegal aliens who voted in the election. I'm going to demand that they go ahead and get removed, kicked out, deported, because that's the law. I don't know how many times that the county could go ahead and avoid answering my questions, but eventually they're going to have to. If they give me a no and no records exist, the election most likely will not count. But they're trying to avoid. Second that happens, all the bullshit that you guys did will come to light. I understand all the stunts that these freedom fighters are doing instead of trying to help out people. Let's just say locked in jail, been begging, trying to get a hold of someone. But for some
Thank
reason,
you. Your time has
this
expired.
person doesn't.
Our last public comment is Blair Beekman. This is item 5, closed session items.
Hi, yes, thank you, Blair Beekman. Good luck on your closed session agenda items today. They obviously sound and seem important, and I do not in any way want to mitigate that or lessen that. I woke up on the wrong side of the bed this morning. I got bad news. I'm in a bad mood. So it's just clear to me that I'm upset at the concept that you will prioritize your own life over non-agenda public comment time and not treat non-agenda public comment time with the respect it deserves, the public process as it deserves. I respect what you guys have to do. Please respect what the public has to do. If we can work on it and think about it. Good luck on your closed session agenda items today. Thank you. Oh, and thank you for the posting of the public meeting things. A really nice gesture. I hope we work that out well, and thank you.
That concludes our public comment on this item, Chair.
Very good. Thank you. We'll now move into closed session. So I'll ask everybody who does not need to be here for this item to please leave the room. We'll take a 5-minute break so we can get all organized. Okay, how about if we all take our seats now that we're open to the public? Everybody, please take your seats. Welcome back. I will now turn it over to Lolly for any reportable actions before we move to non-agenda public comments. Lolly.
Yes, the board met in closed session and approved a settlement offer related to a lease dispute from Carl Strauss Brewing Company. Carl Strauss Brewing Company agreed to pay SANDAG $400,000 in full resolution of the lease dispute.
Very good. We will now go to non-agenda public comment. You may have 2 minutes each.
Thank you, Chair. If you're online and from earlier, you have Marco Espinoza, Zach DeFazio Ferrelli, Leif Gensert, and Jeffrey Huter. Go ahead and raise your hand now. In person, we have Truth, Rita Javier, Cesar Javier, Patrick Gaffey, and allegedly Audra. First, we'll go Truth, followed by Parita Javier. You have 2 minutes.
I'm actually so hungry, I almost don't even care if it's 2 minutes. So I have 3 SANDAG surveillance videos now proving a pattern and practice of harassment by Manuela Paloma and Kyle Lavelle against myself. But in the process, SANDAG violated California Government Code Section 7922.535 on timely responses 2 different times. Bunch of idiots running the show. And since Lisa and Mario rudely didn't listen to me at the last meeting, I'm gonna skip ahead. SANDAG needs to stop doxing the last digits of people's phone numbers, as this is personally identifiable information. Implement a sign-up system for so you can refer to people by the name that they sign up to speak. And I would say meeting management, but I don't think Lisa has any idea what that is. And my point is, because if it's okay to publicly share people's phone digits, I want to try it. Let's see if it is. Number 5777. Is it okay if I say that out loud? Whose number is that, I wonder? How did I get it? That's another question. So let's talk about the building, because you had an issue with the notices, which apparently has changed. There really is no excuses for that type of thing, because this building cost the taxpayers $62.5 million to lease for 15 years at an interest rate of 3.91%. That's over $4.2 million a year for this oversized building in the heart of drug addiction. And even better, on August 12th, 2024, the County Hazardous Materials Division sent a notice to comply to the West that said, violation Unified Program Facility Permit not obtained for hazardous materials. And then on December 19th, 2025, the Department of Environmental Health sent a notice to the West that said, the date of your last submitted certified hazardous materials business plan, May 8th, 2024. So has that been remedied, or did you guys just buy, lease a building that you didn't actually know all the details of? Because it wouldn't surprise me. And it's too bad Judy left, because I actually was going to nominate her for vice chair, but I don't know, change my mind.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Next is Parita Javier, followed by Cesar Javier. This is non-agenda public comment.
I am ikaw na nga. Wala akong
They're waiting.
I am Purita Javier, District 9 of San Diego. Thank you. SANDAG, we are hurt and been living in our twilight years, fearful of our health and safety from ceramic kilns toxicity. For 5 years of voicing our community problem, the city elected officials ignored and neglected it. In fact, our crusade was received violent, threatening, city code enforcement referred us to APCD only to find out that it is led by Mayor Todd Gloria, the founder of independent APCD from the county in 2019 and senior governing board along with absentee councilor Elo Rivera. I'm sorry. Elo Rivera. We have reason to believe that APCD Code Rule 11 accepting 20.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Next is Cesar Javier, followed by Patrick Gaffey.
Sir Mario, Ma'am Chair, Sir Lakaba, Sir Lee, this is our community concern. Toxicity in a residential zone designated community. We have here say SDG substation radiating, destructive impact to people. The only substation that has a wall is at downtown. In our community, it's only a see-through fence. We have also CDC, the renowned public garden, which was sponsored by First Lady Obama. It gets money internationally, and yet this program is wasting resources like water. It's a blight. It's not a show window of a garden. Come and see, Councilor Lakaba, Councilor Lee. We have a city property, but it is not, it's a road, designed for a road, but it is closed, and the homeowners tag it as private property. And it is being used by Waldorf School for their ground or classroom. We have also a Choyas Parkway street, which is the favorite of car chases. And we have the the Choyas Creek, which has never been cleaned up. It is now the habitat of our fellow San Diegans, our homeless. And the water is what we call a breeding, a vector for mosquitoes. And we have also requested.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Next is Patrick Gaffey, followed by allegedly Audra.
By local law enforcement and turned over by SANDAG to federal agencies, including the Border Patrol and Customs. What is this board doing to ensure the public that ARGIS data are not being misused by federal agents and contractors or recirculated to other agencies and third parties unauthorized to access it? We have seen the abuses by ICE and DHS in the streets, the immigration courts, the Otay Mesa Detention Center, in the chaotic, inhumane mass deportation of non-criminal immigrants, the denial of due process, the separation of families, unconstitutional surveillance, and intimidation tactics. What safeguards are you demanding to prevent unlawful sharing in this data services contract? The board owes accountability and transparency regarding ARGIS data selling that San Diego Associated Governments approved without adequate public review and or consent. Thank you.
Allegedly Audra, not in the room. Oh, we have the original draw online.
Yes, that's allegedly Audra. Good for you guys for giving us 2 minutes, but shame on you for making us wait until you are done, because you just do that to disenfranchise the people and wait for people to leave. And I hope in your closed session that you were talking about the Brown Act violations that I have, asked you to course cure and correct. You've got less than 30 days now to go ahead and do that so that you don't face litigation. And I suggest you do that because I don't want to have to go back 6 months to every single committee and board that you have meeting that you have held and deem them null and void because you're refusing to cure and correct just the 3 meetings that I mentioned. And I'll go ahead and mention them again. It was the last executive committee meeting, the Chiefs and Sheriffs Management Committee, and also the Audit Committee. And so it would be better for you guys to cure and correct those 3 meetings and revisit them than to go back 6 months and negate everything that you have been doing in all of these meetings. It would not behoove you. The money that would come from that is going to come from the people. And I don't want to have to go down that path. But if you guys are going to stick your feet in the ground and pretend that what you did was not illegal when you know it was, because you have since put that screen, which you could have been doing the entire time, out to the public. In fact, you actually need to move that so it's facing Union Street and not just towards the building, because that way anybody who's walking by will be able to see it and will know what you guys are doing in there. So take it a step further and let's not, fight this. Let's go ahead and do what's right for the people, save us some money, and cure and correct those 3 meetings.
Next is Live Gensert, followed by Blair Beekman.
Hello, SANDAG board. It's me again. I also have to say that I don't think it's right that you put non-gender public comment to the end. You're disenfranchising a lot of people that have day jobs that would otherwise be able to participate if it's just a couple of minutes in the early of the meeting. Now you waited 3 hours, and a lot of the people that would have loved to speak cannot speak now. So I urge you to change that. Otherwise, what you will end up with is people speaking on approval of the minutes or on unrelated items to get their point across. We don't want that either. So please, please, please give people the opportunity to speak at the beginning of the meeting. So to my actual point, I can only repeat what I said in the past. Fully implement the SANDAG regional plan with up-to-date bus rapid transit standards and not just labels like Next Gen Rapid, which you now reduce to just regular rapid. That's completely meaningless. Additionally, it is your responsibility to come up with an SP79 map. So far, the map that you propose or the proposed map is insufficient. The San Diego City Council proposed a map that includes more bus stops. I encourage you to adopt this map. Otherwise, you will face litigation from the state, or at least you will risk litigation from the state. So make sure you get SP79 right. Otherwise, we will have to spend taxpayer dollars on litigation, which is not what we want. Thank you.
Next is Blair Beekman, followed by Kasav Gupta.
Hi, Blair Beekman. Thank you much for seeing my hand raised. I have recently offered these following words at the City of San Diego budget meeting time. I feel these words can be helpful and relevant to your own cities as well at this time. There is simply a continuing growing political will in the past year in the City of San Diego and across the country to no longer do business with the Flock Corporation. I've been describing for months now how both the City of Oakland and the County of Alameda are creating an 18-month step-by-step process of full community input and best practices to leave Flock for a new, better principled ALPR vendor. This is simply an important good model San Diego can refer to at this time. As there is currently a considerable number of people in San Diego that want to continue ALPR use for the time being. In the least, can the City of San Diego please continue ongoing community dialogue, conversations and how to formally leave the ALPR vendor Flock, and to also continue the ideas of consensus building and fair compromise. Can people of the San Diego area begin a deeper consideration of yearly public meeting review that can specifically address a small incremental net reduction each year of surveillance technology from its local San Diego neighborhoods? I feel this can offer San Diego each year better tech clarity, responsibility, and public oversight within the current tech questions and needs of San Diego neighborhood public safety practices. A reminder that it is my understanding that former San Diego councilperson Monica Montgomery Stepp has always felt that the numbers of new ALPR purchases for San Diego a few years ago could eventually be reduced. And to conclude, I feel we simply need an open, accountable, full community conversation about SDPD procedures and guidelines with the future of ALPR use in real time. Good luck that we can find compromise and consensus in our ALPR issues. I think there is a way to do that. I've tried to offer them today that I hope you can bring back to your communities. Thank you.
Next is Gustav Gupta.
Hi, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, I'm speaking in strong support of SANDAG putting out their SB 79 map. It's completely unacceptable that one hasn't been put out so far. SB 79 takes effect on July 1st, and the June 26th draft agenda contains no SB 79 item. Both YIMBY Dems and the California Housing Defense Fund have submitted a detailed joint letter to this board on May 29, co-signed by 6 different housing orgs across the state, identifying the stops that SANDAG must include and why. I'm here to echo those letters' demands to designate the designated bus lane only corridors on El Cajon Boulevard, University Avenue, and Park Boulevard as Tier 2 TOD stops. Designate all NCTD Sprinter stations and Solana Beach Station as Tier 2 TOD stops, and designate Oceanside Station as a Tier 1 TOD stop, and publish the map before July 1st. You can't bring your NIMBYism and use that to affect housing production across the county. You have an opportunity to do better for young people like me. You can't keep blocking housing production across the county. You need to put out an updated map now, as soon as possible, so that developers and cities can put together their max. An under-inclusive map means fewer homes near transit and legal exposure for SANDAG and local governments alike. If you guys don't put out a correct map, there will be a lawsuit incoming, and we know SANDAG can't handle the financial penalty. The clock is running out. Please act. Thank you.
Another call to Marco Espinosa or Zach DeFazio or Jeffrey Huter. You had your hands raised initially at the beginning. Want to make sure you have opportunity to comment. And I am not seeing any hands, so that concludes our public comment on this item, Chair.
Great, and that concludes our meeting. The next Board of Directors meeting will be June 26th at 9 a.m. This meeting is adjourned.